Excellent. And we are going to get underway. Um, Thank you so much for all being here. We're very excited to share this live webinar with you today. I'm going to do a quick introduction and some logistics, and then we'll turn it over to our speaker, Mohamed, here in just one moment. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mike Daly. I'm the Development Director at the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. And we are so happy you're here for this live update from Jenin about rooting resistance and about the situation on the ground in Jenin. What we're going to do to structure our time today, we have about an hour. We're very lucky to have Mohamed joining us from Palestine. It's evening there, so thank you, Mohamed, for joining us. I have a couple questions. Mohamed and I are going to start with a conversation for about half of our time. And as we go, if you have questions, we'd love to hear what you and the audience would like to hear about as well. So there's a Q&A icon, probably near the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A. And if you open that at any point as Mohamed's speaking as we go, please type in questions. I and my colleague Maha will be tracking those. And type them in whenever you'd like. And at the end, we'll definitely allow some time to get audience and participant questions in there to Mohamed. But I'll start with sort of a more structured Q&A of some things I want to ask Mohamed about. As we start, I would like to just share a quick overview of what this rooting resistance campaign is. Mohamed's going to get much more into that in the future as we go, but we've been partnering with the Palestine Fair Trade Association for over a decade. This is an annual campaign that we do. Together, through this partnership, we've planted 25,000 olive trees in Palestine in the last decade, just from USCPR supporters. That means we've supported close to 5,000 families in Palestine in that time. And to give you a sense of what we do in any one year, last year alone, there were 39 villages that got seedlings through this program in partnership with the Palestine Fair Trade Association. We talk about olive trees the most. They're a great symbol of Palestine. They're very important for the economy, as you all know. But just wanted to note there are also grape trees and fig trees and pomegranates and other types of trees that also are provided through this program. So that is a very brief overview. I wanted to start with that, and I wanted to thank all of you on the line with us today. I know many of you have donated this year, have donated in years past, have helped us raise funds. This is the impact of what we've been doing. This is how it's really helping out on the ground in Palestine and supporting USCPR's work here in the US. So thank you all for that. I want to do quick staff introductions, and then we're going to move to Mohamed and the main show. As I said at the top, I'm Mike Daly. I'm the Development Director here at the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. Thank you so much for joining us. Maha, would you like to say a word too, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Maha. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Development Associate at USCPR.
Cool. And Maha and I, as I said, will both be helping moderate the Q&A section. So if you have questions as we go, type them in, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. The main show, Mohamed, we're so grateful you're here. I want to do a brief bio, and then we're going to turn it over to you. Mohamed Rouzi is the manager of the Palestine Fair Trade Association in Jenin. PFTA is their acronym. You may hear us refer to it as that. He has a master's in agricultural engineering and in animal science, and he's worked with PFTA since 2011. He's a father, he's a farmer, a beekeeper, and he's a good friend of the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. So Mohamed, welcome. Thank you for joining us from Palestine at this really, I think, important time. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe if you could just start with, you've been at PFTA for about a decade. We've been working with PFTA on this partnership for a decade. So could tell us what rooting resistance is, tell us what Trees for Life is, and just introduce us to this campaign, please.
Thank you so much, Mike, for this beautiful introduction. So I am Mohamed Rouzi from Jenin, working with the Palestine Fair Association as a director. First of all, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights for this great partnership which started in 2010 post US campaign, and all the network working with them and supporting the Palestinian farmers, the Palestinian citizens during that period. So Palestine Fair Trade Association is a non-profit non-governmental organization founded in 2004-2005. as a union or as a pool for all the Palestinian farmers, producers, workers, anyone in Palestine who is interested to work under the fair trade umbrella. When we start in 2004, I think that the situation at that time was politically and economically was very bad. The second intifada was just finished, and there was, let's say, no real marketing for our farmers' products. Let's say that the people who start or who found the PFTA start to visit farmers, villages, cooperatives, and talk with them, teach them, train them, make capacity building for them about the fair trade as an added value for their product. Our farmers traditionally produce a high quality products, let's say olive oil, because the majority of our farmers are olive farmers. The problem was there is no real marketing for their production or for their olive oil locally and let's say in the international market. So the idea was to find, let's say, a legal body which helped the farmers to export their production with a sustainable relation and also with better prices in comparison to the local market price. At that time, the local market price for 1 kilogram of olive oil was less than $2. And $2, but it's difficult to find marketing. So if you have a good chance to find marketing for your olive oil locally, uh, let's say the traders will pay less than $2. So the first group which start working with us, let's say the first group from the Palestinian producers or farmers, uh, uh, let's say a small quantity was collected from them, and the fair price which was paid for them was 18 shekels or 17 shekels, which is, let's say, uh, more than at that time $4, which is uh, in comparison to the market price is the double of in comparison to the market price.
Excuse me,
So here, yeah,
Mohammed, excuse me for 1 second. Sorry, I'm seeing some comments come in from people that they're having a little trouble hearing you. And I meant to say this at the top. We are live from Palestine with Mohammed. The connection can be a little shaky, but yeah, if you could hold the microphone like that, Mohammed, I'm hoping that that will
yeah.
help a little bit. That's a lot clearer. Thank you. Sorry to cut you off. Please continue, but I hope that that helps folks.
So sorry for that. Anyway, so as I mentioned, small number of farmers were interested to start with us. The first year, we paid for them a fair price because in the first year, when we start at that time, we did not have yet the fair trade certification. So we paid them a fair price, which was 16 or 17 shekels, which is as double as the market price, and that was our first step in the process. Year by year, we let's say work with the farmers. More farmers join our system. We get the fair trade certification for olive oil, and we were the first legal body in the world to get a fair trade certification from the Fair Trade International for olive oil. Now we are in 2022, and the total number of farmers, the direct beneficiaries, the direct farmers, more than 1,200 farmers. This is the direct beneficiaries. If we talk about the pool, more than maybe 7,000, let's say, people benefit from our program. Of course, they are directly benefit because they are family members. Uh, uh, but also other farmers who are not in our system also benefit from our system in indirect way. How? Because when BFTA through our national partner Canaan Palestine, the company, the fair trade company, which export our products, let's say export a huge quantity of olive oil from the local market, from the national production outside Palestine, this play a important role to let's say to improve the price, the local price for the olive oil in one hand, and also give better opportunities for other farmers who are not in our system to find local marketing for their products.
That's great, Mohammed. Thank you so much for that overview of the system. I mean, 7,000 people affected directly, families, and then you're talking about the broader ripple effects. That's part of why we're so proud to work with you all and proud to help out with planting some of these saplings. I wondered, could you say, I've heard you speak years back, and it's always so fascinating to hear you, but why are olive trees important to the Palestinian people? Like, what's their significance? What would you say to that?
You know, when we say olive trees or olives, we believe Palestine, it's the home of the olive, first of all. And also for us as Palestinians, let's say the olive tree as it's a kind of, let's say, it's a symbol for our, let's say, history. So we believe that we as Palestinians exist in Palestine since thousands of years. As the olive trees in Palestine, you can find 4,000 years old olive trees. And these trees was planted by our great grandfather. So just imagine that how many generations, how many people, how many nations, let's say, benefit from this olive tree. This is in one side, but also we believe that olives connect us with land. Now, let's say the majority of the Palestinian farmers, they are olive farmers. The most important thing for us as Palestinians, not just Palestinians, we believe in the Middle East that if you two things, if you have them in your home, let's say you don't need anything else, the olive oil and the wheat flour. So we have let's say a Palestinian proverb says that uh, two lions in home. Let's say I will say that in Arabic. أسدين في البيت القمح والزيت. أسدين means أسدين في البيت means two lions in home. القمح والزيت means wheat and olive oil. So if you have these two, let's say the olive oil and the wheat, we believe that's it. You don't need anything else. You can continue your life. So olive olives as olives for us, يعني, something great. Also, we as because in Palestine it's mainly it's a Muslim community. The olives also mentioned in the Holy Quran as let's say holy tree. So all these things, if you can put them together, will give you a better view about the meaning of olives for us in Palestine.
Thank you, Mohammed. That's beautiful. And one of the reasons we named this campaign on our side, Rooting Resistance, was that the symbolism of trees, but also the economic benefits they provide to families. And so it's a program we're very happy to support. I wonder, I see some questions coming out on the Q&A, so please keep typing those in. We will get to as many of those as we can. I have a couple more I want to ask sort of about the program, so you can tell us more about the logistics of how things work, Mohammed. And then I do want to pick your brain a little bit, someone just a situation on the ground. I mean, I feel like we planned this call a couple weeks ago, and as I'm sure everyone on this call knows, we've seen more Israeli incursions, more restrictions on movement. They're, of course, always there to some extent, but I think it's a really important time to be having this conversation. We've seen settler violence against, folks harvesting olives. So I want to do both, but let's focus on Rooting Resistance just a bit more, the specific program, Trees for Life. Could you say more about how you all select the farmers? I know there's an application process. You were telling us a bit about that the other day, but could you just say sort of how you select farmers, what regions you all help provide saplings to throughout Palestine? Share a little bit more on that, please.
So simply any Palestinian farmer who interested to plant the trees, he can, let's say, visit PFTA office, let's say in October and November to apply. So it's free. Any Palestinian farmer can apply for that. Even farmers who live inside Israel, let's say Palestinians who live inside Israel, they can apply. And in last years, we have some farmers who live inside. We call them 1948 Arabs. they apply for to receive trees, and they receive all of the trees, and they plant them, let's say, in their villages, which is located behind, let's say, behind the separation wall. And they already holding Israeli IDs, but as I told you, they are Arabs. So any farmer interested to plant, he can plant. Let's say the criterions, farmers who interested to increase the area which cultivated by olives, also farmers who suffer from, let's say, bad or poor economical situation, they can apply and benefit from the program. Farmers who lose part of their lands, or sometimes the majority of their lands, because of building the separation wall in 2000 in 2002. Farmers who suffer from settlements, because we have some villages located near settlements, and when they want to visit their lands, they need a special permit from the Israeli authorities. So, in order to encourage them to continue going to their land, because some some lands, it's a barren land, it's empty land. So we believe that if these farmers have trees in these lands, they will continue going and visiting the land. Farmers who, let's say, lose part of the land behind the separation wall. Also, they need, let's say, a kind of special permits. They call it agricultural permits from the Israeli authorities. So they need to apply for these permits. And mainly they don't give the youth, the young farmers, mainly they give the old farmers to enter their land. So in general, any Palestinian farmer interested to plant trees, he can apply. We receive applications during October and November. In December, let's say let's say we have Trees for Life committee in PFTA review all the applications, and then we inform the farmers to come to let's say to receive the trees in from specific nurseries which let's say produce olive saplings under our supervision, because we have organic program, and so even the trees which are planted especially for farmers who registered in our system should be, let's say, planted in organic way.
Thank you, Mohammed. That's great to get some more details on that. I've had the privilege to visit several times and been in Jayus and Bilain and some of those places where the wall has cut off groves. I know there's many more,
Yeah.
but I think that's really powerful, and I love that you all are, working with farmers in all places to try to protect the land. I didn't know that you actually had given some trees to folks in 48, so that's something I learned today. I think that's really awesome too. We've seen so much activism over the years across the Green Line, and so to know that you all are also providing trees to Palestinian farmers, that's wonderful. Thank you. We spoke a little bit also in our pre-call earlier in the week about climate change, and I know there's the political situation there on the ground. We're going to get to that in a moment, but I know climate change is also affecting the harvest. I've learned from you is affecting the harvest season, is affecting the way you all are planting and raising trees there. So talk about climate change and how that's affecting the work and agriculture in the West Bank, please.
Climate change, since years affecting negatively all the world. But in Palestine, it's it affects us in more aggressive, let's say, way. So always there is always conferences, there is always researches, there is always studies carried out all over the world to help the people or the farmers or everybody to be resilient with the climate change, all these things. But in Palestine, it's another story. So we need to fight the climate change. In the same time, we need to find alternatives which allowed to be applied by the Israeli occupation. For example, we as one of the most, let's say, horrible effects for climate change is the lack of rains. of course, there is excess of rain in some areas, but in Palestine there is lack of rain. So we need to find, let's say, solution. The Some farmers, they do, let's say, ground cisterns to collect or to harvest rains during winter, and they would use it during summer. Other farmers try to dig ground wells, which is not allowed, of course. It's not allowed by the Israeli authorities. So if they discover that a farmer dig a well in an area, and the Israeli authorities, they discovered that, they directly came to, and let's say, close it and destroyed it, and they force you as a farmer to pay for that. So of course there is, destroying the well needs money. So they will destroy your well, and you will pay for that. Yeah. So we start in PFTA to work with farmers to find, let's say, some applicable solutions. So, for example, we start encouraging the farmers to make we called it intercropping. Intercropping, it's important to, let's say, cover the soil, and this will reduce the evaporation of the water or the moisture from the soil during summer. Also, it's play a major role to control the carbon cycle. So we scientifically, when we plant intercrops, this will reduce the loss of carbon from the soil. Also, planting other kind of trees. So in some cases, we have trees which help other trees. So if we plant, for example, carob trees between the olive trees, this will reduce the effect of some insects toward the olive trees. Of course, the olive trees can fight these insects, but because there is lack of water, mainly the immunity system for these trees is weak. So you need other kind of trees in order to help these trees to be more resilient because of the climate change. We have the landrace seeds. Landrace seeds, these seeds is more, let's say, resilient and more strong to be planted. It's not genetically modified. So when we plant these organic landrace seeds between our olives, it's help to, as I mentioned in the beginning, to reduce the evaporation. It's make a kind of, we called it the dew harvesting. You know what I mean? The dew, the term, the dew harvesting, especially in the early morning, which is considered as self-irrigation for the soil. Also, we believe as much as you plant trees, as much as you help the environment to be resilient with the climate change. And we as BFTA and Palestinians, we always say it's important to have our own contribution in fighting the climate change, even if it's very small contribution, but we are part of this world, and it's important to have our own contribution in this, let's say, in this thing.
Thank you, Mohammed. Again, just amazing work you all are doing there. That sheds a lot of light on those local landrace seeds, the bality seeds that you were talking about water and the restrictions. There were actually a couple of questions. I hadn't seen them before I asked that question, but you went ahead and answered a few questions about water and where people get water from. So I know there are a few more questions I see about rooting resistance, but I actually want to pivot now just to manage our time a little bit. I'd love to hear a little bit about the situation on the ground, Mohammed. I think that'd really be important for some of our audience too. I mean, you live in Jenin, PFTA is based in Jenin and the rural areas around there. We in the States have been seeing, more Israeli military incursions into towns. We've been watching the situation in Nablus, just to your south, obviously, carefully with the horrible killings there recently. And the bigger context, as we all know, you all live under occupation. It's always there, but it seems like there's an inflection point here. It seems like Yeah, it seems like a very hard time on the ground. So could you share more just on the current situation and what your view is of what's going on, please?
Uh, 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 the current situation is, let's say, bad. We are under occupation, so it's normal to have a bad situation. But let's say in the last couple of months, there is more and more military operations inside the villages and the Palestinian towns every night. In Jenin, it's sometimes we don't go to work. So in the early morning, when we wake up, mainly we don't sleep at that night because there's a military operation, and you can imagine in general, our villages or our towns is not very big. So if there's an operation in any part of the city, we will we will hear that. So we will not sleep at that night. And the military operations mainly start in the late night, let's say at 4 or 5 a.m. So it lasts sometimes until 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. So mainly we go to work at 8. So we start at 8. So at this situation, we need to wait. So because we cannot go to our office, to the FTA office. Also, uh, now Jenin and Nablus now it's a very hot zone because of what's happening. And I think mainly for the people who are listening to me, I think they know, at least they know there is something happening in Palestine, especially in Jenin and, or let's say in the north of West Bank. For example, we have their Sharaf. Their Sharaf, it's one of our cooperatives, which is working with PFTA. So yesterday, officially, our olive harvest season started for PFTA farmers. Their Sharaf, it's part of Nablus, and Nablus, it's under siege since 2 weeks. Now, we as PFTA and let's say purchasing officers from our national partner, it's not easy for them to access their Sharaf, to go to purchase the olive oil from the farmer. So they need to find detours for their security, of course, because mainly if we go directly to the checkpoint, they will not allow us to enter their Sharaf or to enter Nablus because we are from Jenin, and also because Nablus under siege. So the situation is, let's say, little bit confusing. We as Palestinians, we adapt with that. So it's okay. 6 months ago, I think, yeah, 6 months ago, all of you heard about Shireen Abu Aqli. Shireen Abu Aqli, which was killed. By the way, she killed in my neighborhood, 2 minutes from my house, and that's it. They killed it. They killed her, and the story is finished. So for this reason, we the civilians, we cannot easily, let's say, go outside our houses or our villages or our cities during such operation. I remember last month we have some field visits in Nablus area, and there is a checkpoint between Nablus and Jenin. We call it Mas'oudiya checkpoint near Shadi Shumron settlement. And they decide, when our PFTA car reach the checkpoint, they decide to make a security check for everything in the car. The funny thing, they did not ask us, me and my colleagues, for about our IDs. Mainly when they stop you in a checkpoint, first thing they ask you to give them your ID card to them to make a check. Security check. They did not ask us about the IDs. They just make a full security check for the car. And at the end, they told us, okay, can move, you can keep going toward Jenin. So now the situation little bit unstable. As I told you, for us, we are adapt with that, but still we are yani, just think what happening in the world, the COVID and what happened because of COVID, and we still suffering from it. So we as Palestinians, we suffer from the pandemic, we suffer from the climate change, and we suffer from the occupation. But still, we are continue in our life. We're still producing high quality products, olive oil, almond, and our products are, let's say, have a good markets because not because it's from Palestine, from let's say the Holy Land or a country under occupation, because it's had a high quality or let's say have an added value, which is the organic, the fair trade. So we adapt with that. We will continue our fighting to resistance, to freedom, and we believe working in such way produce these high quality products, planting olive trees in our own land, which occupied by Israel. It's a way of non-violent resistance to get our freedom someday, and we believe we will get our freedom soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yes, you're such an inspiration, Mohammed, to us. The work is so important. And we were, of course, saddened and enraged when we heard of Shireen's killing. And I know they're tough circumstances to work in, but a testament to your creativity, your future vision. So it's really feel honored to work alongside you and to help with this. We at the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights are trying to build a movement here in the U.S. To lead to liberation, to return. And so we're doing all that we can here. And again, really, really appreciate partnering with you. One more thing I want to ask about the political situation on the ground. I mean, it sort of bridges, but I've seen some reports here of, this happens every olive harvest season, unfortunately, of settler violence. I mean, there's the Israeli military incursions that we were talking about and the closures, but how much are settlers sort of in the northern West Bank in your area? How much are they affecting the harvest? Are some of the villages that you all work in seeing that vigilante violence there in the northern West Bank? How much of an issue is that? I know it's just the start of the harvest, but share anything either this year or historically that you could share about that, please.
In general, the settlers are, let's say, they know how to, let's say, to make the farmers feel, let's say, how, let's say, I don't know how to say that in English. So they know how to touch our farmers' pain, or how to increase the pain for farmers. They know that the olive trees means for us as Palestinians and farmers a lot. So always they are cutting and uproot olive trees. There is, let's say, it's first thing. Another thing, always sometimes they go with a company, with the military, to harvest our olive trees in some areas, especially areas located near Silfit and Ramallah. They go with the army to harvest the olive trees. Let's say they uh, uh, stole or steal the olives from our groups. Simply, they go with the army and they start harvesting. The farmers, when let's say they go to harvest their olives, they found the settlers in their lands. A clashes start. The Israeli police or Israeli military found it in the area. They stop the clashes and they bring the settlers with the fruits to the settlements. So yeah, in some areas our farmers suffering too much. In some cases, they close the road. The settlers, they have their own weapon, so they decide, two settlers, for example, to close the road. So no one can go their land, which is located in that area, which you need to use this road to reach to access that land. So they know how to make us suffer. But still, as I mentioned, our farmers, they go to their land very early to harvest their fruits, and they know maybe they will uh, 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 face the settlers in some on the way, on the road, in their grooves, in their land, but still they know that they need to continue going to their lands, to continue harvesting their olives, because it's something related to our identity. We cannot just because we are afraid from the settlers. So that's it. We cannot go to harvest. No, we will go.
Yeah, it's really a tragedy, Mohammed, that on top of everything else, you and the farmers you work with and so many in Palestine are dealing with that. Yeah, I'm sorry that that's
Just
the case. Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
want sorry to stop you. Just to add something. Last year, I think all the audience or the people who are listening to us, the I guess we have the Trees for Life program. Trees for Life program, which started in 2006, which it's the big, and let's say rooting resistance. It's part of the Trees for Life program. So last year, uh, in I think in late January, uh, the Israeli authorities in one night they uproot around 4,000 olive trees in the village of Deir Balut in Silfit district. So at that time, let's say we were distributing olive trees, and because Deir Balut is one of our cooperatives, so we have many connections. So they contact us and they ask us for an urgent support to the farmers who lose their trees in that area, to support them with the trees. And after 3 or 4 days from the uprooting, we support them with 2,500 olive trees or olive seedlings, and these trees planted in the same area. The sad thing is that these trees which was uprooted, part of them was planting years ago through our program. But we still, yani, even if they uproot these trees, we will support them with other trees to plant them in the same area. Just I remember that, so I would like to share this story with you and all the audience.
No, that's beautiful, Mohammed, and totally unscripted. But people often ask me, I get a couple of questions every year, like, how can you ensure that these trees that we help plant aren't going to get cut down? And you totally answer that question, because I've said, I can't guarantee that. You never know, but I can guarantee that PFTA is going to do what they can on the ground, is going to replant the trees. And so that's a beautiful, I have an even better answer now for when people ask. You go into Deir Balut and trying to get new trees back on the ground. That's really beautiful. So thank you for that. We do have a number of questions piling up here in Q&A. So I think we're going to pivot. And as we pivot, I'm actually going to just turn back on. I want to share with everyone, I know hopefully everyone can stay for the hour, but if not, there are ways that you can help this campaign. So give me 1 second. We're going to get to your questions here. I just want to share my screen again for a brief moment. Okay, that's back. Yes, the Trees for Life program that PFTA has had since 2006, that we've been a partner with in the last decade. We call it Rooting Resistance here. If you haven't already done some of these things, we would love your help. You could help donate to plant trees. You could help recruit others to plant trees. We actually have a very easy form. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out. And then you can, you yourself could be responsible for planting 20, 50 trees if you get your friends and family involved. If you have time to share a social media post, that would be great to get the word out. We have 1 week left in the campaign this year. And all of those can be found at that link, uscpr.org/rooting-resistance. You can find out how to donate yourself, how to recruit others. I won't take much longer because I want to get back to you, Mohammed, with the questions, but our goal this year, USCPR's share, again, lots of other partners around the globe I know support this program. We're one, but we were hoping to plant 3,600 olive trees this year with the donations that we were able to gather. As of today, we're about 47% towards that goal. We have just under 1,900 trees still to plant. The last week is always the busiest, so we know a lot will come in, but we are trending a little bit behind where we've been. So Mohammed, I shared this with you. I'm not, I wish this weren't the case, but we're a little bit behind on that campaign. As of now, we're going to do our very best in the next week to catch up and to kind of do our fair share. But if any of you on the call today could help out by donating yourself, by recruiting others to plant, that would be so appreciated and so helpful. So I just wanted to say that, give an update on the campaign. I want to turn now, Mohammed. There are a lot of questions here. There are some, lots of different ones. So I'm just going to go through. We covered water already. There was a question about organics, and I know you talked about that a bit at the top, but someone wanted to hear a little bit more about the role of organics within PFTA. How many of your farmers are growing organically? I think the answer is all, but if you could just clarify that. And sort of, and I guess even deeper, like why is that organic certification so important to you all? If you could say more about that, please.
Let's say the first section of the question is first part. We have 1,200 farmers registered in our system. More than all of them are fair trade certified. More than 96% of these farmers are both fair trade and organic certified farmers. So as I mentioned, mainly all our farmers are organic certified. Now we have, we have organic certification. We have, let's say, a certification body, a certifier, international certifier, working under regulations. So we have, let's say, we are certified under the US regulations, the EU regulations, the Japanese regulations, and also the there is a specific regulation for the German market called Naturland. Now we start to work in a new organic certification called ROC, RUC. The RUC, it's Regenerative Organic Certification. It's organic certification, but let's say give a better added value for our products. Now in the markets, because as I told you, it's not just because it's from Palestine. Of course, olive oil. It's we are happy that there is people purchase or consume the Palestinian olive oil because it's from Palestine, from the Holy Land, from the occupied Palestine. But also, we are more happy that we have customers consume our olive oil because it's organic, because it has an added value. Now in the shelves, if you go to the market, you will find many olive oils, many brands from all over, and many countries, from Europe, from North Africa, from Middle East. But we believe our olive oil is one of the finest and best olive oil in the world. So organic certification is a very important added value for our farmers, for a sustainable marketing for our production. It's not enough to be Palestinian olive oil. It, it should be have a high quality value to, let's say, make the customer to consume more and more olive oil.
Thank you, Mohammed, for that. Then that leads directly to a couple other questions we had. Someone asked if you have a relationship with Canaan, and I want you to say more about that. And then someone else asked sort of where can we get this amazing olive oil in the States? So could you speak about Canaan and where folks could get this here?
To make it more easy, you can, Canaan Fair Trade, it's our national partner. So all our products are exported by Canaan Palestine, Canaan Fair Trade or Canaan Palestine. So Canaan Palestine export to more than, I think, 18 or 17 countries all over the world, in the United States, in Canada, Europe, United Kingdom, Japan, Korea, and some Arab Gulf countries. Simply, you can visit Canaan website. Just write Canaan Palestine.com, and you in America you will find all the needed information about our products, where you will find these products, and I think you can order them online.
Thank you, Mohammed. That's great. Other questions about olive trees, something I've never heard you speak to before, so I'm looking forward to learning on this one. Are olive trees susceptible to pests or disease? Yeah, an agricultural question. What can you say about olive trees and what threats there are from pests and diseases?
Uh, olive trees, olive is, it's, let's say, one of the strongest trees uh, in general. So in general, we don't have real problems regarding to the diseases or pest control. But even so, if we have, for example, some diseases, we find, let's say, we call it organic approved inputs. So, for example, we have a fungus. It's a disease, let's say, a fungus called peacock eye. Peacock eye affects the trees, the fruits, and the leaves. Simply, and you can find in the local market and a product which is allowed under the organic certification, and you can apply. Of course, there is restrictions. You cannot use chemicals. You cannot use pesticides or let's say fungicides, which is not allowed. In general, pesticides is not allowed. Fungicides, there is some specific input or let's say products certified by our certifier. Of course, it's not easy to control diseases uh, uh, but without chemicals. But we believe we have some practices that can prevent the happening of the disease. So prevention always and preventing the disease, it's very important for us.
Thank you for sharing. That's really fascinating. We have a couple more questions. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. We have about 10 minutes left. So if you type in the Q&A at the bottom, if you have any questions that are coming up for you, put that in there. Maha off screen is helping me organize those, and I'm trying to get to as many as we can. So we have a couple already in the stack that I'll ask you in a moment, Mohammed. But for those of you on the line, please keep writing them in. We still have a little bit of time here. Here's what, Mohammed, I'd be curious about your perspective on what opportunities are there to visit Palestine and see the work in action? And when is the best time to come? Can visitors help plant trees?
Anytime, anyone, all of your networks or your friends, relatives are most welcome to visit Palestine anytime, all over the year. But mainly our visitors came in let's say late October and beginning of early November to join our farmers in harvesting their olives. But unfortunately, when the pandemic starts, these let's say groups stop to come to visit us. In January and February, we do the planting. So the planting season starts in January and February. So anyone interested to come and plant trees is most welcome to visit us in January and February. But even so, all over the year, we can say find, let's say, some farmers to plant trees. So anyone interested to visit Palestine and you have enough time to visit Jenin and is interested to plant trees, we can organize something for him.
That's great, Mohammed. Thank you. And I actually want to take just a quick moment to share some of my own experience here. First of all, I put in the chat, USCPR, U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights, has our page on our website with resources on ethical travel to Palestine when we recommend groups and ways to get over there. Sounds like Mohammed will be happy to see you at any point. It's great to get there if you can, and it's even better to do it ethically, especially if you're traveling as a non-Palestinian to get there. So some ideas and resources there. I, before working at USCPR, worked with Eyewitness Palestine for over a decade and actually met PFTA farmers and folks at Canaan at the Olive Harvest Festival in Jenin and got to see the processing plant and got to meet farmers' families. So there are other resources on that page, but Eyewitness Palestine I know is one great way to get over there. So check that out as well. Another question here. Let me see. Let me go back here. I'm trying to get as many as I can and group them together. some logistical ones I'll get to at the end. Yeah, there's a question here. I actually don't know if it's for us as USCPR or you at Palestine Fair Trade, Mohammed, but they ask, do you receive any support from Peace Now, the Israeli group Peace Now? I can answer for USCPR and say, no, we don't receive support ourselves from Peace Now. We're funded primarily from individual donations. We get some foundation support, but not from Peace Now. Mohammed, anything to say from PFTA on that?
No, no.
Cool. And you're funded mainly from this campaign, right? From Trees for Life, from donors outside Palestine. Is that how most of the money for the plantains happens?
Yeah, mainly they are, let's say we have the US campaign, we have Land of Canaan Foundation, also we have Canaan Fair Trade also support us, our partner, regional partner. Some, let's say, companies which work with us, which import our olive oil, also support us.
Yep. Thank you for sharing that. There's a number of other questions here that I hear more being about USCPR and sort of how we work with in other issues. I'll get to them, but one just came in for you, Mohammed. So let me prioritize this one. How does the apartheid on the ground affect water distribution? I know you got a little into that with the cisterns, but could you say more about how the occupation of apartheid affect water and water resources on the ground?
All the water resources are controlled by the Israelis. We as Palestinians, we don't have real access or real, let's say, any kind of control for water resources. So, for example, we cannot dig wells. There is some, let's say, legal wells. They call it legal wells. It's in, let's say, it's supervised. It's, I will say, controlled by the Palestinian Authority, but supervised by Israelis. So always they are, let's say, we cannot, we don't have real access, even if we control these wells which located in area A, let's say, and the Palestinian territories. It's also controlled by the Israelis. So there is no enough water. There is no access to the water. If you go to any specific Palestinian village or city, you will find in all the houses or all the buildings, you will have tanks, black tanks for water, because it's not the water is not available all over the week. So we have tanks. The water came 2 days or 3 days a week, and then it's cut. So you need to save some water to use it when the water is water supply is cut. But if you go to Israel, to, let's say, Tel Aviv or to Nazareth, you will, it's rare to see such tanks because they have always water. So just imagine that.
Thank you for going even deeper on that. I hope the questioner who asked that said he had to leave fairly soon, but I hope he stayed for that answer. And if not, I'll actually answer one of the logistical questions. We are recording. It usually takes an hour or two for the recording to process afterwards, but after the recording is processed, we'll have that and I'll be able to share that link with all the attendees. So if you had to come and go a bit, we will have the recording of this soon after we conclude here in about 5 minutes. There are a couple of questions that are actually, I think, more about USCPR's work. So I just want to take a moment for those, Mohammed, and then we'll turn back and close out with some last reflections on Renewed Resistance. But there was one sort of asking what members of Congress that we're working with here in the US. And one of the things I'll say about this project, Renewed Resistance, it does fund olive trees on the ground in Palestine. A share of what you donate funds that, and a share also funds USCPR's work on the ground. So we do have a policy team on our staff who are working on relations with Congress, who are helping organize. One of the resources there that you might use in your local area related to local governance and your members of Congress is our military aid map. If you haven't seen that, check that out. The military funding that your congressional district sends each year, you can actually go in and parse out how much is being sent from those different congressional districts. But yeah, yes, we are working to engage Congress on this here on our side in the US. There was another question about freedom of movement and what USCPR is doing about some of the new Israeli restrictions on freedom of movement. We have amplified in the last couple of weeks some of the petitions around those COGAT restrictions and the, getting into Israel being harder now, getting into the West Bank. So If you check our recent social media feeds, you'll find some information on that important issue. Mohamed, someone just shared with us that they were part of a small delegation that stayed in Nablus just last week. I think that comment came in when you were talking about what's going on in the northern West Bank and Nablus. So someone sort of is saying hi, they were there just last week, getting back to sort of how one can travel there ethically and work on the ground and learn a lot. So greetings from someone who was just in your region recently. And there was another question about anti-Semitism and sort of the equation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. I think there's a great resource, a great coalition, a great partner effort that we're part of called Drop the ADL. I am actually not finding a link at the moment, but in a moment I will find that link and put it in as well. Some resources on stopping, resisting that equation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. We want to fight anti-Semitism everywhere we see it, but yes, we do not equate that with anti-Zionism. We have some resources on Drop the ADL there. Okay, I think I've gotten through most of the questions I see. Cool. So Mohamed, as we close out, I have this one last slide I want to share, and then I just want to ask for sort of a closing reflection from you. Anything else you want to add? Let me put this back up. But one thing that I always find to be so touching about this program, and I think so important about this program, is what the farmers themselves say. You talked about how trees, how you people apply, where they go. But I just put these two quotes on these are actual farmers. These are in the PFTA sends us an annual report every year with details on where the trees went, which communities, and also with some testimonials from farmers. So here's Ayman saying how much it means planting trees as a way of resistance. Issam, they're helping her be more resilient against challenges. Really powerful work that you all do on the ground. We're really appreciative to be in partnership with you. And yeah, are there any last things you'd like to say, Mohamed, as we close out here?
Simply, you are doing you as campaign for Palestinian rights, and also all the network, all the people who support us through you. You are doing a great work, a very important work for us. We are so happy for this partnership, for this support. We hope one day you visit us in Palestine, in free Palestine, of course. To come, it's not just talking with us through video conference or through these applications, online applications, to visit us, to see what's happening on the ground. Of course, these days it's very difficult, but we hope in the near future the situation will be better and you will be able to visit us freely.
Thank you, Mohamed, for that. That's beautiful. I'm just going to put back on the screen as we close out here that link, if you missed it, to learn more and do more. And I actually, one of our audience members today wrote in something, not as a question, but more as a comment to you and to the Palestinian people. Dear Mohamed Razi and the Palestinian people, and I think it's a beautiful sentiment to end on. So I'm going to share Ramez's comment here. Speaks for me. I think it speaks for many of us on the call. But dear Mohamed and the Palestinian people, you have our admiration as Americans for your continuous efforts to confront the occupation that aims to disrupt your basic life. You all are the ideal symbol in a world to oppose the harsh occupation in all the means you choose. So really touching words, Ramez. Thank you for sharing those with us. I hope it's okay to share them more broadly here, but you are our inspiration, Mohamed. It is our privilege to work alongside you. So grateful for your time during the evening here in Palestine and your reflections, but thank you so much, and good luck in this year's campaign, this year's olive harvest, and I hope we can do our part. Really appreciate your work.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you all.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you, Mohamed. Take care. All the best to your family and those at PFTA. For those in the audience, thank you for attending today. I know we had some audio problems at the top, but just fascinating stuff you were sharing, Mohamed. I hope you all found this as thought-provoking and as formative as I did. And with that, we'll end. Thank you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.